Hello and welcome to Boston in Lincolnshire. I'm here to go cruising on a narrowboat. Yes, really, actual cruising, but not my own narrowboat. And in fact, it's going to be a convoy of two, and it should be a very interesting journey. We're taking the narrowboats to sea, which they're entirely not designed for. The aim is to cross the Wash, supposedly a bay or large estuary, but really a huge chunk out of the side of England's coastline. This is open water, albeit fairly shallow, with a lot of sandbanks. This is the narrowboat I'd be aboard, Wobbly, captained by Alan, who once appeared in a video I made about narrowboat toilets. He'll be supervised by Bosun, the ship's dog, and also two cats, Snubby here and Floyd, who I didn't manage to get on camera. The other boat in the convoy should also be familiar to regular viewers, as well as its crew, including George the dog and Captain Michael of the YouTube channel Minimal List, along with his wife Jo. Oh, and of course Lorna came along, mostly to tickle George. Jo and Michael told me how they were feeling about the impending trip.
I'm just ready to go. We've been in Boston for 2 weeks and I'm, strangely not as nervous as I feel like I should be.
And I'm at that last second going through all the little details going, what did I miss? What did I miss? Did I shut off the fuel cock? Did I turn on the fuel cock again? Did I, yes, will everything work? Yeah.
We had a long journey ahead out of Boston, as Michael explains.
So the first bit is we reverse out and we go over to the locks where we will be at 9 o'clock, and then we wait for the river to drop to what they call second level. So it's been at high tide already today and it's dropping down, and around 9:23 it's supposed to hit second level. And the way it works here is there's no paddles on the outbound gate, so pretty much at the moment that the lock keeper sees that the two are level, he just opens the doors and you go. Right, and the river with them drains out there.
The front doors and the back doors are open at the same time, so it's just really weird.
So you're on the level and you just go, and that's a little bit surprising to anybody who hasn't seen, because everything just opens up and you're like, wait, what's happening? And then we're going to pass St. Botham's Church, or the Boston Stump, and there's a couple of bridges, and then we'll get to a large number of fishing boats and everything that moor up, and then we will finally get to the area where you can turn right onto the Black Sluice or left onto the Wash, and we'll pass through the Boston Tide Barrier, which is new. It's opened up this year. It will not go off. We will call them ahead of time to make sure that they don't just suddenly slam that thing shut and flip us upside down. And then we've got quite a long way to get to the Wash itself, where we will pass the River Welland on the right. We will shoot out into essentially the North Sea, and before too long we'll turn and head across the actual Wash. So
easy.
Soon enough it was time for us to go, so everyone headed to their boats and started the engines. Perseverance was first away, backing gently off the pontoon and then doing Sierra Cosworth car park donuts to turn on a sixpence and head downstream towards the lock. Off they went, and then it was our turn. Alan untied the bow line, and then the centre line, and we drifted free of the pontoon. A little cautious reversing so as not to bump the sailing boat we'd been moored next to, and we too turned gently before heading after the others. It was overcast and chilly, not the sunshine we'd hoped for, but at least there was barely a breath of wind. Perseverance was already on the lock landing, and we lined up behind them. Having done about 200 yards or so from the mooring, we're now at the lock, and what we have to do is just wait for the tides to be right, and apparently that will be about another hour or so. 10:15 should be about right, and then they'll open the lock gates and we'll be through. While we waited, our pilot arrived, and a bloke from the Canal and River Trust. The CRT chap checked our boat numbers for valid licences, while I asked the pilot why we couldn't just go over on our own.
In law, you don't need me. In law, anybody can get onto any boat in British waters and can go if they want. There's nothing to stop them. But most of these boats are people's homes, and people like to get their homes safely from one side to the other. Also, there's the insurance aspect, and most insurers will request a pilot to be able to continue the insurance. If they go without a pilot, they won't be insured. We've got the weather in our favour, but things can change quite dramatically. Anyone that does boating, when everything's going right, it's all slow and serene. It doesn't happen, but when it goes wrong quite fast, and everything gathers speed, and it's all happening at lightning speed when it goes wrong. So I'm here. If it does go wrong, hopefully I'm going to know what to do to put it right again.
Suddenly, just as we were mooching about chatting, the lock light changed to green. We had to leap aboard, cast off the lines, start the engines and get through while the gates were open. It felt much like the start of the Le Mans Grand Prix. Once through, we were on the tidal section of the River Witham, which wends its way through Boston. The major landmark here is Boston Stump, a church dating from the 14th century. Alan and wife Tina were steady at the helm, the trusty Ruston and Hornsby 18 horsepower engine sounding in fine fettle after a fresh oil change. We pursued Perseverance along the river through the town. Here's the brand new £100 million Boston Tidal Barrier, a scheme designed to protect hundreds of homes from tidal surges. Here the river becomes the haven, hopefully with no troubles to be seen, a long muddy stretch of water that takes us to the mouth of the Wash. I get the impression that any moment now it's about to start getting very interesting. There's a lot of water out there. I thought I'd better see how Alan was feeling.
Lovely. Yeah, it's really smooth. Got a nice current taking us down the river. We're doing about 6.5 knots at this stage. You're all happy? Very happy, yeah. Engine's running all right. Noisy as usual, but hey, it's going well.
Alan had a neat app on his phone which was not only showing our location but transmitting it for anyone else to follow along live.
Well, we've done I would say, a good couple of miles down the estuary. We're now coming up to the point where we actually go out onto the open ocean into the Wash. It's rather exciting. But we're having bacon sandwiches, so that's okay.
And plenty of cups of tea and coffee. We were well fortified. There's the end of the haven and the start of the Wash. Because of the many shallow sandbanks, marker buoys, red and green, direct you where to go. It's all very big and very open, and not at all like the canals I'm used to. Mercifully, it was quite calm, or at least to start with. Gradually, though, the wind picked up, and Narrowboat Wobbly became true to its name. It's just gone midday. I think it was about 10 o'clock when we actually went through the lock and properly set off. So only 2 hours down of what is, I believe, something like a 12-hour journey in total. We have to take quite a convoluted route. You can't just go directly across the estuary. You have to go round the houses a bit because of loads of sandbanks. So we started out by going kind of northeastish, I suppose, instead of south. And then we turn and then we start heading more towards our destination. But so far, progress is good. As the wind rose, filming in the bow became more soggy. I beat a swift retreat behind the bow doors. It was definitely getting wobblier. Incredibly, in amongst all this, Alan let me have a go on the tiller, which was fun. It didn't seem to have much effect as I turned it, mind you. But somehow we kept a straight course, following our buddy boat and crucially the pilot up ahead. A notification on the VHF told us this boat and another were, between them, retrieving a pipe from the seabed, and we were advised to go around them, causing a minor detour. The slight change of direction brought us side on to the gusts, and with the tide taking a different tack, the narrowboat lolled around like a drunk trying to cross the road. This sideways motion got a bit hairy at times. But with the tide about to change, we embarked upon one of the more unusual aspects of this passage, namely that we aim for a sandbank, deliberately run ourselves onto the shallows, and pause for a bit while the water starts to move in the other direction. Here's Perseverance aiming for the sand at ramming speed. And they're grounded. They'd leave the engine running for a bit while the water lowered to ensure they were properly stuck. Likewise, we did the same.
There we go.
Despite the engine's push, we did end up floating free a couple of times and had to re-ram ourselves onto the beach. At the bows, the crew, especially the canine complement, were keen to disembark for a run around. Meanwhile, we and the boats were checked out by a platoon of Navy SEALs. There's something quite special about having a beach all to yourself. After a while, Bosun had had enough, but couldn't quite bring himself to swim to the boat. George, as usual, just wanted to play more ball. Soon enough, the boats were floating again and heading south.
Well, after that little interlude, during which time I had an ice cream and various people went on the beach and the dogs enjoyed a nice run and play with their balls, we're now off again.
The wind had almost completely died, the sun was out, and we still needed to pass more time before there'd be enough water depth for us to go up the estuary to King's Lynn. So I sat in the bow enjoying the warmth while the boats idled around the sandbanks and we all took in the sights and chatted.
It's coming up to 5 PM, so we've been going for roughly 7 hours, including the stop at the sandbank. The weather has vastly improved with the sun out, the sea flat calm. It's actually very pleasant. We are gently approaching the shore again, where we go back in and up
I forget the name of the river or the channel that we go up, but apparently this is going to be quite interesting because the tide is coming in and it is a tidal channel, and of course it suddenly goes from open sea to very narrow, so all the water whooshes up the channel with us on that water, so we should be fairly scudding along at a good pace, and yeah, it should be a bit of a racetrack. Being closer into shore again, there were further markers to guide our path. Alan's brother Richard was keeping him company for this final leg, while I lazed in the bow. Look how fast we're moving with the tide carrying us. Also shown here by the water flowing against that buoy. Remember, it's not moving. That water flow is all the tide pushing against it. With the bank clearly visible and easily reachable to both sides, we were by now definitely off the sea and onto the river, charmingly named the Great Ouse. Having started out in Boston in Lincolnshire and then done a circuitous route around the Wash, we're now coming up towards King's Lynn in Norfolk, en route, I believe, for Denver. Again, that's the tide, nothing more. No wonder we were doing over 10 knots. Note these eddies and swirls in the water. They'd come to haunt us fairly soon after, with more power than you'd imagine. And suddenly, the engine died. I looked back. No one steering. Alan had either fallen overboard or was inside fixing the problem. I blithely assumed the latter, and the boat drifted swiftly on, even keeping in the right direction with the help of the current. Fortunately, the engine soon burst into life again, and we drew alongside Perseverance to reassure them that all was well and that we didn't need a tow.
Because it ran out, you've got to take the... So I'm trying to pump, Alan's trying to bleed, and the tiller's going...
Well, that was a little bit of excitement as we draw towards the close of a journey. There's a day tank feeding fuel into the engine, and because the engine's done so much work for so long, the day tank had just run dry. But it's not as simple as just pumping new fuel into it. Apparently you have to then bleed some part of the engine. So Alan and Tina frantically bleeding the engine and pumping fuel, and now we're started again, so hopefully all's well. And with those words I jinxed us, as with both boats required to take a perverse crisscross motion up the river to avoid grounding on silt and mud, those swirling eddy currents were poised under the surface waiting to strike. As Narrowboat Wobbly followed the path set by Perseverance, involving heading to the bank then a sharp left, the water grabbed our bow and wouldn't let it turn, resulting in this.
Bank, brace yourself.
Why are we hitting this?
I don't know.
Why are we hitting
Things went flying inside, but all were unharmed. Alan had quite literally been unable to turn the bow due to the pressure of the water swirling around. Freed and catching up our friends again, it was now time to pair up and tie the boats together for the final approach to a lock landing at Denver Sluice.
We don't want to do that.
What's that? It's okay. You taking it back?
Please slow down when passing the lock into your watch.
How's your...
The pilot took charge, the trick being that we couldn't approach at the speed the river was taking us, so some deft manoeuvring and use of reverse thrust brought us to an almost imperceptible forward motion for the last 20 minutes or so. Alongside the floating pontoon, we somehow crabbed sideways until lines could be taken ashore and the boats tied securely. Our adventure was over.
I was very happy to have Lorna aboard as my emotional support.
I'm not too confident on my bedside manner. Oh, look how much water's coming in. That was a really big wave. Did that calm you down?
I appreciated the efforts of the subject changing and telling me everything was calm at the back. So
I loved beaching up. I love seeing the seals. The weather was good, so the cross, although it did get a little bit bumpy, was roller coaster fun, not roller coaster oh my god death fun, but comfortable fun. And yeah, right up until probably the last hour, I was like, this is great, and then in the last hour I was just like, why is that boat backwards? Yeah, so I'm glad that got all straightened out and everybody ended up going in the same direction.
Excellent. Yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah, we had a bit of an adventure on the river coming up here, but that was great. It was all an experience, and the way we moored up here was brilliant. I loved it. The way we just came in backwards and we were there. It's brilliant. Out in the wash, loved it. Yeah, it was good to see the old girl bouncing around, and yeah, it was a good day.
We made it. Some said it couldn't be done, but we proved them wrong. We battled long, we battled hard. We enjoyed ice creams on the beach. It was a rather fabulous day. Not for the faint-hearted, but very interesting and very good fun. Many thanks to Wobbly Boater and Co for letting me on board. Much appreciated. And thanks for watching. Cheers now. Bye-bye.